I need somebody, not just anybody. You know, I need someone.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you live from KSCO Radio. Very happy to be here. Beautiful day in Santa Cruz. And, it's the 6th of July now. And I hope you all had a great 4th. I obviously was very happy. We ended up having my book launched on July 4th, Turn Back Your Biological Clock. And what's really cool about it is it hit #1 on the charts. So my book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, which you can get on Amazon, both in a Kindle version and or paperback, was #1 and hit #1, which is very exciting. It's the second edition loaded with a lot more information. And I was talking to Dr. Dan Pompa about it, because he was going to help me promote it, because we actually are talking a lot about the program that he put together, several of them that I was part in helping develop it, along with a bunch of other docs that we all work together. We would go through the different scenarios, the different fastings, the different types of ketogenic and programs to try to find out how to get people as healthy as possible, as quick as possible, as safe as possible. So at any rate, I encourage you, if you haven't got the book, so many of you did get it. And thank you all very much for helping me promote the book and make it a #1 bestseller on Amazon. I appreciate that. For those of you that were unable to participate yet, you can still get the book. You can go to Amazon and Duncan McCollum and then put in Turn Back Your Biological Clock, or you can just on your browser type the number 4 mybioclock.com, all lowercase, 4my clock clock.com, and that will take you to a spot where you can order either the paperback or the Kindle version. So what is so cool about this book is it's actually taking you through a story of a gentleman that woke up in a hospital bed, on death's bed, really. And, he actually had a pivotal point in his life where he decided to make a change, and I think the relevance of this for me is there was a point in my life where it was, make it or break it. I was basically, I was very, very devastated from things that had happened in my life, just like all of us have those things. But at one point, we all get to that place where it's either you decide to move forward or just cash in your chips. And I got there at 28 years old. History of, I broke my back when I was 12. I was dyslexic diagnosed in 1st grade. Never really learned to read because of the pain in my back and other events of personal family deaths that occurred, and whatever the reason. I mean, we all have our own reason, but I made bad choices and went down a road of pretty heavy addiction. And the pills that, my doctors, my mom's friends would give us just didn't do anything, where I got stronger medications that helped me drop out of reality, which was really what I needed to do, as so it seemed. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine. I remember when I kind of realized that there's something that's not working with Western medicine. And I was about 15 years old at the time. Now, already I had been diagnosed with dyslexia, put in all kinds of special reading classes that didn't really help. All it did was zoom words across the screen faster and faster. My eyes were supposed to go faster and faster, but it was still no comprehension. It just dug a deeper hole for me. And then the medications for the back pain, and then the street drugs that I ended up taking out of, dropping out, not wanting to be around my house because for several reasons. But mainly because my parents were both alcoholics. My brother had died at 16. I was only 9 at the time. He had actually committed suicide. And my mother blamed my dad openly, but internally she blamed herself and died a few years later of cancer. But what was very interesting is we grew up in a neighborhood where there were a lot of the doctors that we would go see. We were near Balda Bates Hospital in Berkeley. And so we knew these doctors, they, by name, and my parents did, of course, and I knew their kids. And I remember going to the hospital in Berkeley, Balda Bates Hospital, for an appointment with my mother. And there was a very prominent oncologist there at the time. I mean, we're talking 1968, 69, maybe 69. And, I remember he was a family friend. And, you kind of get this idea when you were young that, at least back in those days, that when you would go to the doctor, they fixed you up. They knew everything. You never asked questions. You just went in, you told them what was going on, and they wrote something on a piece of paper, and then you were fine. And back then, by the way, we were a much healthier country. I think 6% of the children were obese, maybe, and 6%, about the same number, had some kind of chronic disease or chronic autoimmune disease. Now over 50% of the children have autoimmune, and 80 million Americans have multiple chronic diseases, according to Michigan State University. So, at any rate, I remember my mother had been diagnosed with cancer, and I went with her to see this particular doctor. And I remember him just looking at me. And I remember thinking to myself, I was maybe 14 or 15, and going, well, yeah, he's going to fix her. And I could see this glazed over look in his eye. It was the most peculiar thing I'd really ever seen, because I really knew the medical doctors of those times to be able to fix you. And this was the first time I was confronted with the fact that this wasn't going to happen. And I could see the look in his eyes, the disconnection. And I don't know if my mother noticed it at the time or not, but she obviously was feeling pretty lousy, the medications and chemotherapy they gave her at that time. So show within a couple years, in fact, January 1st, 1973, she passed away. And I was in my 12th grade, halfway through 12th grade. However, I had not been a good student at all, pretty much was in wood shop and work ed, and they got me out of the school, graduated me early is what they said. And I was definitely not an academic genius. So, my battle with health and my understanding of the healthcare system was tainted at an early age, and where I did not really want to ever go to a doctor. And I don't know if any of you have had that feeling or similar feelings, but it wasn't until because nobody had diagnosed my broken back. And I fell out of a tree, or a branch broke on Tightwad Hill when I was 12 watching a Cal football game. And my two friends, Billy and Andy, had to carry me home. And I'd never got any mainstream solution or even acknowledgement or understanding that it was a problem. And what ended up happening is I went down the path of, the wrong path towards my own destruction. And but two guys carried me into a chiropractor's office at 20 years old. My back had gone out again. I was lifting a piano. These guys came over to my house, and I had a pickup truck, and they said, "Hey, Duncan, man, somebody gave us a piano. You have a truck. Can we borrow your truck?" And, back in my early 20s and such, you're always looking for a way up and or down, as the path may be. So I said, oh yeah, you guys buy the beer, we'll go get the piano. So they bought a case of Busch Bavarian Talls, and we started drinking, and we drank the whole case of beer, and then we went to go figure out where this piano was. That's the way you did it in those days. You drank first and did the work after. And at any rate, this was a big, old, worn out, upright grand piano, and it was in somebody's garage. And so these two guys were both smaller than me. And even though I'd lived with pain of varying degrees forever, I was a relatively big guy. So I ended up getting the back of the piano. You remember, I didn't know I had a broken back. I just knew that I'd been in pain for the last 8-9 years. So we moved that piano, we lifted it up because it had no wheels on it. And about the time we were out of the garage, the two guys in front said, okay, come on up. Well, when I lifted my part up, I hadn't cleared the garage door yet. And the top of the grand piano hit the roof, and I collapsed, and I didn't want to drop the piano, but basically just devastated my low back yet one more time where it had already been broken. I didn't know it was broken yet. So now I'm flat on my back for 3 weeks. My friends are coming over trying to help me, give me any kind of medication they had laying around the house, or they could conjure up any kind of alcohol. Nothing, no combination of anything would help. And then these two friends said, hey, we're going to take you to a chiropractor. And I said, no way, I'm not going to a chiropractor. I don't even know what one is, but I'm not going. Well, they knew that I couldn't move, so they took this ugly old green couch out of my living room, and they put it in the back of my pickup truck. It was a 1959 Dodge pickup. And then they lifted me up and put me on that green couch, and they drove me downtown Santa Cruz to a guy named Dr. Anthony York and carried me into his office. And Dr. York was a very interesting fellow, had his head shaved, well, very short crew cut haircut, and he looked kind of scary. But if not for his beautiful wife, Patty, who looked like something right out of Disneyland, like, Snow White. She was that beautiful, beautiful white skin, angelic looking, Midwest. She calmed me down and got me to a point where I would trust this guy. I mean, I would have crawled out with my hands because I was so nervous and then been in so much pain. And so Dr. York came in and asked me what happened, and I told him I lifted a piano, and this was what's the result of it. Well, he said, well, I need some x-rays, so we need to go in the other room. Well, he realized shortly that I couldn't walk, that I'd been carried in, and he asked my two friends to lift me up and hold me up while he took an x-ray. So they sat there and got x-rayed as I did. And in short order, he came back and stuck an x-ray up on the wall after he was in the dark room sounding like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde banging around in there. Put the x-ray up on the view box, and he pointed to it and said, when did you break your back? And this is when everything hit. I looked at him and I said, what? He goes, you broke your back a long time ago. What happened? First time since I'd fallen out of the tree that anybody had bothered to take an x-ray of my back. And believe me, I'd complained about it a lot. So, he basically at that point said, I don't know if I can help you. You're pretty inflamed. You're now not able, your bowels aren't working. You're having difficulty urinating. This nerve is so inflamed that it is affecting not only the pain and motor nerves, meaning the pain nerves, but there's only 31 nerves coming out of your spine, and one nerve has all these different components. If it's being pinched on the pain part, you'll feel the pain. If it's to the motor, you won't have any muscle function. You'll have weakness or hypermobility, hypertonicity. And then all the other senses, hot, cold, and those things, as well as there's a branch that goes to wherever that nerve comes out. In this case, your large intestine, bladder, reproductive area, prostate gland. And he said, because of the severity of your symptoms, I will try to help you, but if I'm not successful, these two guys are going to take you right over to Dominican, because you're going to need to have some kind of immediate potential surgery. So I was scared to death. Well, Dr. York convinced me that I'd be all right, and he actually put me on my side and did the first adjustment I ever had, which was wild. Big explosion in my back. I felt like I was scared to death. My hands were hot. My temperature rose, and I jumped up because I felt like belting them. And then I realized I was standing up for the first time in 3 weeks. So all of a sudden, even though I was still in pain, I could carry my own weight. So at that point, I had a little more respect for the first doctor I had respect for in many, many years. And I asked him what he did, and he started to explain chiropractic to me. Well, it took several years for me to actually realize that the best way to get well was to go on a consistent basis and not only just cover up the symptom by like with drugs or alcohol or medication or an adjustment here and there, but actually to get the body functioning as well as possible. And that would be to go through what Dr. York had called corrective care, which means it's just like going to a gym. You're not going to get a muscle by pressing weights one time. So finally, after a few different flare-ups and being sick and tired of my body hurting me all the time, I took him up on it and allowed him to do corrective care for me. And, by that time, he convinced me that I had to go learn how to read because I should become a chiropractor. And I was very interested in it because the only help I'd ever had with a medical doctor was chiropractic. In fact, the one point that stands out other than the pain in my back was being about 5 or 6 years old, going down to the doctor, the pediatrician down on, I think it was Gross Avenue in Berkeley, and them wanting to give me a vaccine, a needle. And I remember running around, screaming that I didn't want it, running around and running around and running away from them. They all thought it was funny, but they did end up injecting me with whatever it was. Thank God that was it, the last one I ever had. But the thing is that now this doctor, Dr. York, had actually helped my body improve. He just didn't cover up or mitigate the symptoms. And it opened my eyes. Now, I had already, the die was set as far as my use of drugs at that point, and I continued to use them for another 5 or 6, 7, 8 years. Actually, at 28, I almost OD'd. In fact, I almost died. And that was it. I walked to the cliff near my house, and 3 o'clock in the morning, my heart was about to pop out of my shirt. And finally I just realized, okay, I've got to change this. I've got to quit doing this stuff. So I quit on the spot. It was very difficult. I had a lot of, anxiety in order to quit, but I had a really good support system, my sister being one of them. And so that's my story with how I, was raised, what Western medicine looked like to me. And then, so I started going to chiropractic school, and I had to overcome my reading problem, which took about a year of just diligent working that allowed me to make that happen. And then I got into Cabrillo it was my third attempt to pass chemistry, and I met a guy named Fernando Luque, who was from Peru, brilliant, straight A student, never missed an answer on any question or test. So we became friends, and I stuck by him all the way through Cabrillo, calculus, physics, all of the chemistries, all the way through chiropractic school, and we graduated together. And if it wasn't for Fernando, I probably would not have made it. But that's been 35 years ago now. I've been in practice 35 years, and helped thousands of people. I think 20,000 patients have come through my office in that time. We probably weren't able to help every one of them, but the majority of them we do. We really encourage people to do a corrective type of care rather than just cover up symptoms. We will help people that can only do that if that's all they can do. But to me, it's like a ticking time bomb. we really want to try to help people get as healthy as they can. Now, my book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, that just came out, and also subtitled New Hope for Peripheral Neuropathy, just hit #1 on Amazon's list on the 4th of July. And if you or somebody you know has any kind of chronic disease and or peripheral neuropathy specifically, because that is basically the culmination of all chronic disease, ends up with a lack of oxygen and nutrition to the fingers and toes. They lose oxygen, they start to die. Lack of oxygen to the brain causes a stroke. Lack of oxygen to the heart causes a heart attack. Lack of oxygen to your extremities or any organ in your body causes a peripheral neuropathy. And that is it's a pretty bad prognosis, because you become a victim of your own body. Your body's not going to let you walk wherever you want to. You can't, if you start to get balance issues, you can't sleep at night because the blanket on your feet hurts, numbness and tingling. You can't walk on uneven surfaces. Oftentimes you feel like you have a wadded up sock in your shoe, a tight band. I'm afraid to drive because you can't put your foot on the gas pedal or brake. You don't know which is which is pretty dangerous. And I've had, quite a few patients come in and say that they were nervous about that. We had one gentleman just finish his 3-month program last week. And it was very exciting. He came in with his wife. His wife actually listened to the show and got him to come in. She may be listening today. And, we did a retest on his feet, and he had, from where he had to use a cane for stability to even walk around his property. He now has 100% regrowth of all the peripheral nerves. So the testing that was bad was 100% back, which is pretty cool. And he no longer needs to have that cane, and he has the freedoms. I think they bought a motorhome to spend their golden years driving around, but he couldn't drive. So he now can. And, we work too hard all our life, hoping for those golden years, right? And then to find out that we're imprisoned by the health of our body. And maybe we have a health legacy. Maybe we have a financial legacy, which we've all been told about for years and years and years, to put money away so you can enjoy the golden years. But if you don't have your health, you can't enjoy your golden years. So that's what the book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, is about. It's about turning back your biological clock, strangely enough, thus the title. And I highly recommend you buy it for yourselves, but also because I'm sure you'll enjoy it. You can get it on Amazon under Duncan McCollum, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, the 2nd edition. And it's a really cool story that becomes a love story along the way, but weaved into it is a 7-week program that you can do that's going to help. I've had people in my office drop 20, 30 pounds in 7 weeks. And there's also that course connected to the book, which is kind of cool. So you could sign up for the course. There's these stupid little things called QR codes that you click on, and you can sign up for the 7-week cellular healing course. And while you're reading the book, you could do the course along with it, and connect up with the office if you needed to. So we first talk about the first week in the course, we start talking about what you're putting in your mouth and how often. So we want you to stay away from the unhealthy oils, the canola oils, the safflower oils, the hydrogenated vegetable oils that we were taught in the last century that were healthy for us. Well, these are the things that are making our arteries looking hard and calcified, and we see them on x-rays often. So we teach you about the oils. We actually have you start making a list of how many times you put foods in your mouth. We found that the average American puts something in their mouth about 17 times a day. So, that's like you might put in a nut, some gum, have a little snack here, a little snack there. And every time you do that, it turns on this insulin machine, which causes your body to produce this hormone called insulin out of your pancreas that over the long haul, it turns your body into a mess, really. This is how diabetes is formed. We start to crave simple sugars, and the body will crave it. And now it isn't you or your brain craving it, it's the microbiome in your gut. Microbiome, you're made up of 75 trillion cells. Your microbiome is 100 trillion. So you're more bug than you are human cells in your body. So these single organisms of the bacteria that live in your gut kind of are more or less three different classes of microbiome. There's the ones that like quick sugar, there's the one that like fat, and the ones that like protein. So you have like a little manufacturing plant in your gut. So when you eat anything from sugar like bread to broccoli, all of that stuff burns like as glucose, and a lot of people don't realize that. So there are certain bugs in your gut specifically designed to only break down that glucose. And then there's another kind of, or sugar, basically. There's another, and that requires insulin, by the way. Then there's another kind of manufacturing bug in your gut that was specifically breaks down protein. Now, protein ultimately breaks down as sugar, interestingly enough. So, and then the third one is the one that's called, that breaks down fat, and those are ketones. And those are the ones that you're going to learn to nourish and get them to actually work for you. Because if you look down and you're not happy with your physique, there's likely that you're either overweight or you've got depletion of muscle mass, and more than likely you're overweight. So if you're overweight, which over 60% of Americans are, we're the most obese country in the industrialized world, then this tells us that your diet has been predominantly filled with carbohydrates. And those carbohydrates are burning as sugar. You get more in your blood than your body needs to burn, so it has to store it. So it stores it as fat. Now, this is all in the book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock. You can get a really good understanding on how your body's functioning. I think in order to learn how to fix something, you need to learn a little bit about how it works. So this is the point. If you're eating, let's say 10 pounds of sugar and your body only needs 5 pounds to function, what's going to happen with those other 5 pounds? You're not efficiently using fuel. So it'd be like a car driving down the street with blue smoke pouring out of the back. This is a car that's getting too much fuel. It can't burn all the fuel, so it's going to dump it as toxins in the environment. Well, when you're eating more than your body can selectively utilize in a certain period of time, the same thing happens. You burn that, or it gets stored as toxins in your body. It gets stored in fat cells. It causes all kinds of issues with blood sugar levels. It causes issues with your immune system. And, it can actually affect your brain, cause brain fog, all these different things, because the body is on overload. It can shut down your metabolism. And so this book will explain to you how this works so you can understand. We all know how to drive a car, right? Maybe you've learned to drive a car in a parking lot, right? And now you're going to get your license, and you're going to learn how to drive for the rest of your life. Sometimes you're driving through storms, sometimes through, snow, sometimes through 100-degree weather or plus, other times in windstorms. And each one of those scenarios are heavy traffic or no traffic, or dangerous stuff flying across the road, or dangerous drivers around you. You need to become a master at driving a car to be safe on the road. And if you are, then the likelihood is that you're going to have a healthy life as a driver. But if you don't know those rules and you're breaking them all the time, then pretty soon, the likelihood is you're going to go off a road, go off the side of the road, hit somebody else, or drive the car into the ground because you never checked the oil or forgot to put gas in it or something. So with your body's the same thing. My book is designed to help you understand. This is so you can do this yourself, by the way. It's the information is in there. Everything you need and turn back your biological clock is there for you, which by the way, if you just tuned in, was #1 bestseller on July 4th on Amazon. So that was pretty exciting. Great news to hear that. You can get the book by going to Amazon and go to Duncan McCollum, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, and order either the Kindle version or the paperback, or you can just go to your browser and go the number 4 My Bio Clock, all lowercase, for My Bio Clock, BIO clock.com, and that will take you to a link on my website where you can order it. But the cool thing is you can walk yourself through a 7-week course, and it might take you more than that, but that's okay. It's going to give you the Pampa program that will walk you through how to get your body to become an efficient fuel burning machine. They will learn how to be like these cars that burn both electric and gas, hybrids. Your body is a hybrid, but nobody ever turned on half of the hybridness of it. Like, if you had a gas electric engine, but you never use the electrical part, you just use gas all the time. Or better yet, if you run out of gas and you don't have your electrical part charged, you can't function. So your body burns 2 times the fuel. It burns ketones, which is fat, and it burns glucose, which is everything in the vegetable department and up through the protein. So, but if you look at your body and you look like you might be hanging on to some stored fat, then your body doesn't know how to burn it correctly. Because if it did, you wouldn't be starving with 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds extra weight on you. That doesn't make any sense. How can you be hungry when you have tons of stored fuel on your body? So the thing is, your body just doesn't know how to burn that stored fuel. So that's what ketogenic diets are. Now, when we were really promoting this back in 2027, 28, 29, before the pandemic, 2017, 18, and 19, before the pandemic. We were having workshops at my office every week. We had people coming in from the community, having really great wins, losing tons of weight. One guy got off 20 Advil a day, believe it or not, a construction guy, and other people off of several. And because they were covering up their inflamed symptoms with medication and moving forward, and the body was breaking down, and breaking down. So you can learn how to turn this around you need to learn the ketogenic diet, but you need to do it the right way. It's kind of funny. When I'm part of a group called La Tip Santa Cruz, we're a business organization. I've been in it for over 30 years. Every Thursday morning we meet. Throughout the years, I come up with this crazy, outlandish new stuff about health. And I can see people's eyes kind of glaze over. Oh, here he goes again with something new. And I remember talking about, fasting, intermittent diet, what ketones were back 7, 8 years ago. And everybody kind of rolled their eyes. And then about a year ago, some of the people in the group said, I could hear them say, oh yeah, well, I fast I have 2 meals a day. And, I do this kind of ketogenic stuff and this and that. It's so funny because when I was talking about it before, they weren't really interested in it. But once it became mainstream, that's like they always knew it. The only problem is they're doing it incorrectly. Anytime somebody's eating 2 meals a day for more than really 5 or 6 days in a row, you're defeating the whole purpose because your body needs to know feast and famine cycles. So it doesn't matter if you're eating 3 meals a day, 2 meals a day. What will end up happening is your body will find a new norm, and that 2 meals a day, at first you might lose weight, then it stops working anymore. You no longer lose weight and you start to put it back on your 2 meal a day diet. Well, people don't realize you need to do what's called a feast day, which 1 day a week you'll eat 3 meals a day, and a famine day where 1 day a week you'll eat maybe 1 meal a day. So you have a 24-hour fast and then a few 10-hour fasts, and then 1 day you don't fast at all. And this causes this thing to occur in the body called hormesis, where the body's shifting and wondering where the next meal's coming from. The predictability keeps you fat The unpredictability makes the body store and burn fat based on abundance or scarcities. And that's what people don't understand. And they also, because they're reading about it on the internet, and they're getting half the information, because it's not a simple thing. Your body's made up of 75 trillion cells. There's no way that you could, we're just not smart enough as individuals. We can't read enough on the internet to, unless we're, Nobel Prize winners like Dr. Yoshinori Asumi, who won the Nobel Prize in 2016, understanding that a 30-hour fast was the best, created the highest autophagy in the body. Autophagy means autophagy, self-eating, where your body under 30 hours of fasting will eat those senescent or zombie cells. Now, 7 years ago, we called them senescent cells. And then a couple years ago, somebody came up with zombie cells. Oh, zombie cells. And all of a sudden, everybody's talking about zombie cells like we never knew they were there. Yeah, they're there. They're called senile or senescent cells. And just like one rotten apple, it's going to make the whole bunch of apples rotten if you don't get rid of it. So fasting gets rid of zombie cells or senescent cells, but you need to do it in the correct way. You don't want to damage your organs. You don't want to waste muscle inappropriately. And you don't want to dump toxins that are stored in fat cells too heavily, too quickly in your body, because they'll make you sick and cause more damage. Toxins like heavy metals, molds, and things, biochemicals, forever chemicals, glyphosate is all stored in inert part of the body, which is fat cells, because your body stores it there since it can't eliminate it because your liver's too overwhelmed. So it stores it in there, so it's not going to hurt you. But then when you start to burn those fat cells indiscriminately and those zombie cells, you're going to unleash these toxins in a dose higher than your body can handle, and you'll get sick. This is called the keto flu people hear about. So it's all avoidable, but also it's dangerous to do it wrong. I think people are trying to get healthy, and you'll take your Porsche to a Porsche mechanic. You have your house, hopefully the real major stuff done by somebody who knows what they do. But then we think, oh, I can do this. It's the body, only 75 trillion cells, each cell doing 60 million functions a minute, all controlled by the brain. I got this. Well, maybe you do and maybe you don't. But considering that we're the sickest nation in the industrialized world, and most of us retire, and then, most of us, hopefully, we live to the retirement age. There's a huge portion that don't. But then after you retire, it's like 23 months for a man and 38 months for a woman is the typical amount of time they live before they pass away. Now, that's taking for granted the ones that die earlier. But regardless, if you are living longer than that and you don't have the freedom to move around the country because of things like peripheral neuropathy, because of chronic disease, asthmas, allergies, brain fog, digestive disorders, colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, all these chronic diseases, which are basically created by toxins in your body and toxins in your cells, and that get unleashed and they get inside the cell and they turn on bad genes. All the genetic diseases, we all have those genes. They just don't get turned on some of us, and they do others. Well, how does this work? When you get toxins that can't get out of the cell, then those toxins are going to be in the cell causing damage to the DNA. And they'll turn on bad genes. And I've explained it this way before, but if you think about a library, the library is filled with books. So let's say that all those books are the different genes that could be expressed in your body. Blue eyes, blonde hair, brown eyes, 3 fingers, 4 fingers, what type of skin you have, all of those things are there. Now, there's also all the bad genes, the 7 different Alzheimer's genes, all the cancer genes for all the organs in the body, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy. All of those genes exist. Now, let's say they're all books on the library shelf. Well, those genes or those books don't get read unless they're taken off a shelf. So you ask the librarian to go get you a book on, XYZ, and they pull that book out and it gets read, or you read it. Now, if that's a book is a bad gene that might turn on rheumatoid arthritis or gout or any of these inflammatory diseases, then that will be expressed in your body. It's like that book is read. Now, even more, sometimes when you pull out one book, you disturb a book on either side of the bookshelf, either side of the book, and those genes can get expressed as well. So in the library, the librarian does that. In your cells, toxins do that. They turn on these bad genes. And the unhealthier we get, the more these genes are likely to be expressed. The unhealthier the cells get, the more they're likely to be expressed. So my book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, explains how to turn this around. It talks about the liver is the major detoxing organ in your body. Your liver processes the blood. Every cell goes through the liver. Every blood cell goes through the liver 4 times a minute, 4 to 5 times a minute, depending on your circulation. But also the fluid goes through the liver and it is cleansed by the liver material. And then clean blood comes out and the toxins are shunted from the liver into your colon via some kind of duct, and then called the common bile duct. Toxins go into the gallbladder. The rest of the food debris goes into the colon. But the liver oftentimes gets overwhelmed with these chemicals, these forever chemicals, glyphosate, heavy metals, chronic medications that you're taking. People take tons and tons and tons of ibuprofen. It's terrible for the liver. Tons and tons and tons of Advil, terrible for the kidneys. And this very functional liver becomes less and less function until it's just scar tissue. Now, anywhere along this line, the liver can no longer successfully clean the blood. So you have dirty blood flowing around in the body, never getting cleaned to the degree it should. And then those toxins are being splashed up against the cells all the time. The cell walls become very impermeable and very filled with toxins. And Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about this. And in my book, you'll get to a page where there is a QR code that you can click on, and you'll listen to you'll see a video of Dr. Bruce Lipton explaining how a healthy cell, you take a healthy cell and you put it in a toxic environment, the cell immediately starts to die. And then you take that same cell and move it into a healthy environment, it starts to survive. So we just need to detox our bodies so that they can start to turn around. I've been gardening quite a bit in the last few weeks, and this one weed coming out of the sidewalk, I pulled it 3 times now, and I saw it today coming back. How come that weed has a silly little weed has enough tenacity to continue to live? It's innate desire to thrive and live. We have that in our body, but it gets squelched because of all the toxins. And not only are they chemical toxins, they're toxins produced, environmental toxins. They're toxins produced by our body's own ability to make energy or to function. A lot of times the byproduct of our liver, kidney, or anything doing anything is a toxin, and that has to get out of the body too, out of the cells as well. And that gets to a point where it's not doing very well either. And then we get more and more chronic disease. This is what causes, colitis or irritable bowel syndrome, leaky gut syndrome, arthritides of any kind, brain fog specifically, because the chemicals are opening up the protective mechanism in the brain. It's called the blood-brain barrier, and it's like a sieve paper, or it only lets certain things out of the blood into the brain. But glyphosate specifically, as well as other forever chemicals, blow those holes open. So we're getting toxins in our brain now, and those toxins are causing brain fog. One of the main ones is mercury, and another one is lead. We can test this for you. See what your cellular constituents are, or that's not the right word. How much of this is in your body? because you need to get rid of it if you want to be healthy. Your mercury content, the number one mental symptom associated with mercury is toxicity is anxiety. The number one for lead is depression. How many people are being treated for anxiety and depression? How many of them have ever been tested for their mercury load? Now, I can tell you this stuff comes 4 generations down through mom's umbilical blood. So in the book, you're going to learn about this. You're going to learn at least to be able to have an educated decision on what you do with your health from this point forward. And, the book's like $15 or $7 for the Kindle version. And it's a fun story. And it just got number 1 on Amazon if you just turned in. So get it. Let's see if we can keep that rolling. But, get it for yourself and read it for yourself, because you've only got one life to live that we know of right now. And if your health is going down, right now is a time to do something about it. And with peripheral neuropathy, which we treat very successfully in our office, and there's been dozens and dozens of people that have come in off the radio show, off of different type of scenarios, been sent in by family members that listen to the show. We can help people remotely too, just so you know. We can help them do some of the home equipment and also the detoxing of the toxins at home. They don't need to live in the area in order to make that happen. It's not as quick, but it's moving up. If you're not doing anything, it's getting worse. If you're, just maintaining it, it's staying the same. But if you're doing stuff to improve it, you're going to be better off. Don't you owe it to yourself to have a healthier retirement or a healthier next several years on this planet? So the book explains it. We're doing some workshops at our office. You can always call McCollum Chiropractic, 831-459-9990 and say, hey, can I come in and have a peripheral neuropathy exam? These are $99 in our office, by the way. We still have the stem cell, the soft wave treatment for $49.99 to just see if it works. Now, what makes us unique in the area with our soft wave therapy is we'll not only do a consultation and examination, but we will take an X-ray of the area that we'll do the treatment on, as long as there's not a reason not to. So we're unique in that we're the only ones that will take that X-ray in the area. I find it very important because I'm not just interested in covering up your symptoms. I want to know how bad it is or how bad it isn't, so I can give you some predictability on what you would need to do or invest in order to get your body healthy. Because our goal is for you to live a happy, healthy life. And that is, again, why you would want to get the book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock. And, I have another book coming out soon. I'll be giving the title of that. It will be a few months, but it's also going to be a very fun book. Delivered to people over the age of 60-ish, but it will apply to everybody. So this is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you from KSCO. Very happy to be here on KSCO, and thank you to Michael Zwirling and all the staff here that continue to make this happen. So we've got a few minutes left. What else is going on in the world of health? Man, it's amazing. I have another doc at my office, a great guy. He works a couple days a week. But if you know anybody, any doctors out there of chiropractic that would like to be in a position to help a lot of people, and make it a very successful part of their life, I need another chiropractor. We are busy to the point where I'm needing to hire somebody who's dedicated to helping people. And so if you know anybody, have them contact me, Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Family Chiropractic in Capitola. So let's see, what else can I tell you about the trends in health? Hydrogen water, I'm sure you've heard about hydrogen water. It's amazing. We can get the machines for you under your sink by the gentleman that actually invented them 30 years ago for his wife to help her. And we also have the bottles that you can take. You see a lot of them advertised on the air, but you got to know it's worth spending the extra money to get a high quality one, because they either don't produce enough hydrogen really, or the material they're made out of is not hyperallergenic or healthy. In fact, you can get toxins from it, or they don't last. But if you are interested in hydrogen water, let me talk about it for a minute. So hydrogen water is water that has had an extra 2 hydrogens infused into it. So it's H2, H2O. So we know that H2 wants to be H2O. So these other 2 hydrogens are floating around in your body looking for an oxygen to grab onto so that it can turn it into water and get it out of the body. So hydrogen is the smallest element on the planet. And so H2 can go through any material. It can go in, as soon as you put it in your mouth, it diffuses through your mucous membrane. On the way down your throat, it diffuses through the mucous membrane. It does not have to be digested. It goes right through the intestinal wall, the stomach wall, and get into the bloodstream, and it will get into your organs, your cells, your brain. And it's looking for bad oxygens, oxidative stress, it's called. It will go, and immediately that bad oxygen will clasp on to the H2s, making H2O. So now it can get out of the body. It's unleashing this toxic oxygen tied to the cells, tissue, nucleus in the body, and pulling it out. Now, remember, these bad oxygens are the things that are turning the genes on. Remember the story about the library books, and you pull a library out book and open it and read it. That gene getting expressed will start to create whatever that story is of that gene, whether it's, a type of cancer, or Alzheimer's disease, or different type of dementias, other kind of autoimmune diseases, or what have you. So the hydrogen water is another very easy way to just make sure that you're cleansing your body on a daily basis. So we have a machine in our office. You can come by and just try a glass. It's always running up front. And just every time patients come in, we have them drink it, because we want them to reap the benefits of the hydrogen water as well. So this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. It's been really a great last couple of weeks. I was very excited to have my book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, come out and hit #1 on Amazon's bestseller list on July 4th. I released it then because it was Independence Day, and I want you to be independent of an unhealthy body. So if anybody, again, wants to have their peripheral neuropathy testing done, including a full set of x-rays, it's $99. We can also do and it includes a stem cell treatment. If you want to just come and see if we can help one of your joints with a tissue regenerative therapy treatment, that is $49 still while the special lasts. Give us a call. Love you all, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.